This is very close. On my Instagram account, then on the similar topic of sex, which I hope I can actually say here on Booktube. Okay, I need to calm down. Hello everyone, it's Becky here and welcome back to my channel and welcome back to a new video. I am very excited about creating this one because the idea for this video actually came from a question I asked you the other week on my Instagram account, because I asked you about some suggestions on non-fiction books, because it's been a while since I read some nice non-fiction. I've been reading quite a lot of fiction books recently and I was just in a mood for something different, and so many of you sent your suggestions and your favorite non-fiction books, which I'm very grateful for. I don't know if you can hear it, but there are very loud seagulls here today. so many of you sent so many of suggestions and I'm very grateful for it. And when I researched these books, because I must say that I haven't heard of most of them, but when I did a little research and I read about this book, I absolutely loved all of them and I added them to my TBR and I'm hoping to be able to read them soon. But I just thought that I would create this little video because although I have not read these books yet, that's something you should know. So this is definitely not a review or anything like this, but it's just the recommendation of your recommendations, and I just thought that I would create this because it might give some of you a new idea on the books you might add to your TBR as well. Because as I mentioned, I haven't heard about these books, but I just immediately added them to my TBR because they were absolutely amazing. So without further ado, I will just start, but also I would like to say that I was hoping that I will be able also to mention a person who suggested this, because some of the suggestions came from my fellow booktubers or also some other followers on the Instagram, so thank you very much. But unfortunately I realized that once the 24 hours pass on the Instagram, you're not actually able to see the answers anymore, and today I went there again to the archive on the Instagram to see my IG story. But I realized that the answers were not there anymore, so I do not remember everyone who made the suggestions, like who suggested what, so I apologize for this. I will try to remember at least a couple people, but if I not mention your name, I'm very sorry because I just could not access the archive. So that's something Instagram should maybe do some improvements on, but as we know, Instagram has been very weird lately. So anyway, without further ado, I will just start with the first book. I have my notes here, and the first book is called Hokkaido Highway Blues, Hitchhiking Japan by Will Ferguson. And this book sounds absolutely amazing to me because it's a book by the author himself. Yeah, that makes sense. But it's a book about Will Ferguson himself, who is a Canadian English teacher, and he basically hitchhiked through Japan. And he started in the south in the place called Cape Sata, I believe. Well, I don't believe, but I hope that's how you pronounce it, at least a little bit. And he traveled up to the north and basically following the road of cherry tree blossoms, because as we all know, Japan is absolutely stunning country, especially one of the reasons is the cherry blossom trees, which are absolutely wonderful when they are blooming. And he was following this road from the south up to the north, and this book should contain his experience. And I'm very excited about this one because I very recently finished a book called Pachinko, which is also set in Japan and Korea, but I will do a wrap up about this book very soon as well. But I absolutely love to read about Japanese culture and traditions, and I'm very excited to pick up this book as well because it sounds absolutely great. So thank you very much for the suggestions, whoever it was, I don't remember, I'm very sorry. But I will move to the second book, which is called 84 Charing Crossroad by Helen Hunt. Honestly, this book, to me, it sounds like a fiction which I would immediately pick up, and I don't believe how is it possible that I did not know about this book, because I believe it was published in, was it 1970s or something like that, and this book should contain letters which were written between two people. The author Helen herself, who worked as an independent writer in New York, excuse me, and between one bookseller in London. And originally, apparently from what I know, she reached out to this bookstore because she wanted to get some books she was not really able to get in America, because she wanted to deepen her knowledge. And that's how the conversation between her and Frank, I believe he was owner of the second-hand bookstore, how the conversation started. And I think that this lasted for, I think, 20 years. Booktubers. So it's absolutely wonderful because I love this sort of like letter style written books, whether it's fiction or non-fiction. So I'm very excited about this one. Another book on my now TBR list is by Tom Cox, and I remember very vividly who suggested this, and it was Alice from Alice and the Giant Bookshelf. So thank you, Alice, because I know she's very fond of this author, but I haven't read anything from this author yet. And she did not give me a suggestion for a concrete book by him, but she said that basically anything from him. So I did a little research and I did Google some of his books, and one that really caught my interest is called Ring the Hill. And I love nature very much. I think you know it already from either my Instagram post or then even mentioning hiking here on this channel. I do love nature and I do love hills, and this book should be about hills. Basically every chapter should be dedicated to some specific type of the hill, and I believe those which are mostly across the England. So I found this idea very interesting, having non-fiction written about, you know, hills and nature. And also I think it should be talking about mapping hills and as well as reminiscing on his great-grandmother. So to me it's absolutely wonderful idea, because I love stories which are either set in nature pretty much or speaking about nature, and especially when it comes to, you know, reminiscing or thinking or maybe even philosophical aspects of life. I don't know if this is where the book is going as well, but it's just something I really do like. And as it's written on the book, you know, walking and going into nature is about much more than just, you know, walking and the hills itself, because it always triggers your mind into like deeper thinking, whatever it is you are just having in your mind and in your heart. So I'm very excited about this book. So thank you very much for the suggestion, Alice. And then moving to another book which is also about kind of nature and traveling especially, is called A Sense of the World: How a Blind Man Became History's Greatest Traveler by Jason Roberts. And I am very intrigued to read this book, because this should be a biography about the man called James Holman, who became blind at the age of 25, I believe, for unknown reasons. At least I don't know from the synopsis what were the reasons, but by the time when this happened, because he was born in 1786, so obviously in those times, if you are blind or if you become blind, that's pretty much it, because you don't really have any sort of resources for healing it or even like navigating through your life easily. But this man managed to basically travel the world. He joined sailors and he became a sailor, traveled half of the world. He was arrested in Siberia, and he also studied medicine at University of Edinburgh. So to me, absolutely wonderful, and I immediately want to know more about this. So if I have a chance to pick up this book soon, I think it will be one of the books I will read as soon as possible from this list. And then moving to another book, which is called The Girl with Seven Names by, I don't think I will pronounce this name, so I'll just put it here. But if you remember, maybe you do, that I already had this book on my TBR from back in the last year, because I discovered this book before Nonfiction November, and I really did want to read it, but I still did not come across this book somehow, and I still did not manage to read it. So maybe this time finally. But this book is about a young girl who was raised and born in North Korea, but she lived very close to Chinese borders, so she was able to see a little bit different life than what she was used to in, you know, the world of North Korea. And she really wanted to do something about it. So at the age of 17, I believe, she managed to escape from the North Korea, and she moved to China, where she learned the language and basically tried to navigate through life you know, alone. And she was trying to get back to bring her family with her, but obviously the regime in the North Korea does not allow you to leave just like that. So basically, if she would try to come back, or if she would try to bring her family members, it could have very bad consequences. So they were separated for, I believe it was 12 years. But after that, she managed to go to China, and then the story speaks about this whole journey, and also how or if she was able to bring her family members to China with her. So I'm very excited to read this for over a year, so hopefully I will be able to get this soon as well. So thank you very much for this suggestion as well. Another book which I very quickly added to my TBR is called Travels with Charlie in Search of America by John Steinbeck. And if you've seen my latest wrap-up video, you know that I read my first John Steinbeck's books the other month, which was called Of Mice and Men. And although it was a heartbreaking experience, I really did love the writing of the author, so I'm very excited to read this one. And this should be a book about author himself. somehow like memoir. When he was 58 years old, he decided to travel across the America and explore the country he was writing about for so many years. With his French poodle, and he's writing about his experiences on this journey and also tackling different topics such as, for example, feeling lonely in America, because it's obviously created from many people coming from different places, kind of trying to search for their home, and also, for example, racial hostility. So very interesting one, and I am very much keen to read this, because as I mentioned, I did love the writing style of John Steinbeck, and I haven't read any other book by him except Of Mice and Men, so I think this could be interesting experience. Another book on my TBR list now is called A Short History of Nearly Everything by Bill Bryson. And again, this suggestion came from someone who likes this author, because I was not suggested a concrete book, but basically anything from this author. So I did a little digging and I found this book called Short History of Nearly Everything, and it's very interesting one to me, because apparently in this book the author is trying to find the answer for the probably the most famous question of all: how did we appear here? Basically, what happened with us? How did we get to this point of our existence from basically being nothing or coming out of nowhere? And in search for this answer, he is basically traveling, he's meeting different people, from scientists, architects, mathematicians, and reading a lot of different books, and everything should be concluded in this book. So I do have my own ideas on this topic, so I'm very interested to hear what actually is the answer, or whether he came up with some answer, or what was his point of view on this topic. So thank you very much for these suggestions, and yeah, I'm very interested to explore this. And then two more books to mention, and one of them is called American Baby, A Mother, a Child, and the Shadow History of Adoption by Gabrielle Glaser. And this one came from the fellow booktuber called Gemma, lovely Gemma from Gem of Books, thank you very much. This book seems to be not an easy topic to read, but I'm very interested in this one, because it speaks about the adoption in post-war America in 60s. So obviously in America in those times, having a sex before marriage was not something unusual, but you were not really able to get any contraception pills, and abortion was illegal. So there were different ways how people try to, you know, deal with this issue or problem. And one of the ways was that, for example, children were taken from their birth mothers and they were given to different families. And this book speaks about one concrete story of a mother who was actually searching for her firstborn child, who was taken from her in this way, and then actually the boy was living actually a couple streets away from her, and she had no idea, he had no idea. He was his whole life trying to basically search and find out where he came from, and the book should explore this whole topic. So it's something very interesting to me. I never really read anything like this, and I don't really know as much of the history on this theme or on this topic. So thank you very much, Gemma, and yeah, it's a book I would really like to know more about. And then on the similar topic of sex, which I hope I can actually say here on BookTube or YouTube in general, but this came from my friend Rina, and she suggested A Curious History of Sex by Kate Lister. And I don't know much about this book, except that it should speak about the history and also briefly touch on different stigmas, because my friend Rina, she was studying gender studies at the university, so she knows a lot about this topic, and I never really read many books regarding you know, like history of this topic, which I don't know I can say here out loud. Probably yes, but anyway, this is one of the books which I was suggested, and something I will definitely have a look at. Right, my friend, that's it, all the suggestions. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know if you read any of these books, or if you are interested to read any of these. I know it's a strange concept to speak about books when I have not read them, but I was just so excited to share these ideas for the books with you. So thank you very much again to everyone who sent the suggestion and who sent the answer, and I will see you with another video very soon. Take care, bye!